working to connect a region of over 600 bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Nea Mangawang, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. On today's headlines, Malaysian politician Anwar Ibrahim walked out of custody after being pardoned over a sodomy conviction. In Indonesia, an officer and 3 attackers were killed in a police station assault. And here in the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte signs a proclamation declaring a portion of Philippine rice a marine protected area. Malaysian politician Anwar Ibrahim walked out of custody on Wednesday after being pardoned over a sodomy conviction that saw him jailed for the past 3 years, paving the way for his return to national politics. Smiling and looking spry in a tailored black suit, Anwar emerged from a Kuala Lumpur hospital where he had undergone surgery for a shoulder problem, giving a thumbs up to a crowd of journalists before leaving in a car without comment. Anwar and his wife, the nominated Deputy Prime Minister Wan Aziza Wan Ismail, were earlier on Wednesday morning invited for an audience with the King, Sultan Muhammad V, at 12:30 p.m. at the Royal Palace. According to Anwar's lawyer, the King granted the PKR leader a full pardon, expunging all past convictions. Anwar, who was formerly Dr. Mahathir's political rival, has been promised leadership of Malaysia's new governing coalition when Dr. Mahathir decides to step down. The 70-year-old began serving a 5-year sentence in February 2015 after the Malaysian High Court upheld his conviction and sentence on a charge of having sodomized a former personal aide. Their newfound alliance is a stunning turnaround from the 1990s when, on the orders of Dr. Mahathir and his government, Mr. Anwar was arrested and jailed on charges of corruption and sodomy. Mr. Anwar always denied the charges and claimed he was a victim of a political conspiracy. Mr. Anwar was released from custody at Cheras Rehabilitation Center in Kuala Lumpur, where he was recovering from a shoulder injury. Anwar Ibrahim said his country was on the verge of a new golden era, with the toppling of a corruption-riddled regime offering hope to people clamoring for freedom everywhere. But Anwar, a leading member of the People's Justice Party that teamed with former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad to oust scandal-tainted Premier Najib Razak, also cautioned that one election does not make a democracy. Anwar was heir apparent to the premiership until Mahathir sacked him in 1998, and he was subsequently jailed for sodomy and abuse of power. He was imprisoned again in 2015 during Najib's rule after making historic gains as the head of the opposition at the 2013 elections. But in a dramatic turnaround, his party joined forces with his former nemesis to inflict a shock defeat last week on the long-ruling Barisan National Coalition, ending its 6 decades stranglehold on power. Mahathir told the Wall Street Journal on Tuesday he would be in power for 1 to 2 years before an expected handover to Anwar. Heading over to Indonesia, authorities said Wednesday they shot and killed 4 men who staged an attack on a police headquarters that left 1 officer dead and several wounded. The group slammed a minivan into a gate at the station in Riau on Sumatra Island and then attacked officers with samurai swords, according to the country's national police. Spokesman Setio Wasisto said 4 have been shot to death and 1 fled. Television images showed what was reportedly the bodies of 4 suspects lying on the ground. Local police initially said they had killed 3 people and wounded another. Media said 1 attacker may have had a bomb strapped to his body, but police did not immediately confirm the reports. The attack comes as the Southeast Asian nation has been rocked by a series of deadly attacks on churches and a police station, involving multiple suicide bombings carried out by families, including young children. It was not clear if Wednesday's incident was linked to the earlier attacks in Surabaya, which have been claimed by the Islamic State group. Staying in Indonesia, local campers captured video of a dramatic eruption of Java's Mount Merapi right next to their campsite. A group of campers in central Java were forced to abandon their belongings after Mount Merapi sent plumes of thick smoke into the air. Take a look.
Wah, gizi tadi. Hari sih masih kalau mangan orang lagi. Erupsi, ya Allah. Waduh. Kita. Astagfirullahaladzim. Cepat. Astagfirullahaladzim. Cepat. Astagfirullahaladzim. Berlindung sini. Astagfirullahaladzim. Berlindung. Gila, King. Terus di depan mata saya. Merapi erupsi. Kementerian kaki, kementerian. Astagfirullahaladzim. Erupsi Merapi. Kita.
I am here at Gastown, which is a National Historic Site in Vancouver, British Columbia. Located in Vancouver's oldest neighborhood is the steam-powered clock, which is Gastown's most famous landmark. Make sure to tune in to Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I am Lou Aquino, EBC correspondent, and I am 1 with 25.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Welcome back. The Western Mindanao Command, or WestMINCOM, through the Naval Forces Western Mindanao, or NAVFOR-WEM, and the Royal Australian Navy, or RAN, is conducting the 3rd Combined Maritime Security Activity to enhance capability against. The maritime security activity kicked off on Monday with the arrival ceremony of the 2 RAN ships, Her Majesty Australian ship Albany and Glenelg in Zamboanga City. Before the ceremony, the Philippine Navy vessel BRP General Mariano Alvarez, skippered by Lieutenant Commander Ted Cerezo, conducted a meeting procedure for entering harbor with the RAN vessels at 3.8 nautical miles southeast of Tictabon Island. Colonel Hernani Songano, NAVFOR-WEM Deputy Commander for Marine Operations, represented Rear Admiral Rene Medina during the ceremony held at the local port. The RAN contingent is headed by Lieutenant Colonel Judd Finger, Joint Task Force 629 Commander. Songano said that part of the activity is the series of maritime patrols in the sea lines of communications, particularly in the waters of Zampelan or Zamboanga Peninsula and Lanao, Basilan, and Tawi-Tawi. Songano said that various drills aboard ships will also be held to enhance the readiness of crew. The NAVFOR-WEM is utilizing the following vessels in the conduct of maritime patrol: BRP Cebu, BRP Anastasio Cacayorin, BRP Joscoro Papa, BRP Filipino Flojo, and BRP General Mariano Alvarez. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte on Tuesday signed a proclamation declaring a portion of Philippine rice, more known as Benham rice, a marine protected area. The President signed a proclamation providing for the declaration of 50,000 hectares of the underwater plateau as a strict protection zone limited to scientific studies. Yesterday, the President sent off some 50 Filipino researchers to study the resource-rich area. They were tasked to conduct a mapping survey, biological investigation, and assessment of the coral reef and fisheries stock in the area until November. More than 300 hectares of the 13 million hectare Philippine rice, meanwhile, will be designated as a special fisheries management area. In related news, President Duterte insisted yesterday that the Philippines has not given up its sovereignty rights over certain areas in the disputed South China Sea. Duterte made a claim even after he had discussed the matter in the past with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The president boarded BRP Davao del Sur, where he led a program marking the first year of the declaration of Benham Prize as Philippine rice. Take a listen.
I have nothing against China, but China claimed the entire ocean of the China Sea. So, not only did assert its jurisdiction over the distance of the 12-mile limit territorial waters and what would be known as the sovereign rights of a sovereign country territory, lumagpas na, and they have claimed entire ownership, proprietary in nature. So tayo naman, nobody was really willing to create rocos there, here and there. Tayo, it was the Philippines that was eaten slowly. Let me relate to you what happened during my first visit. At napag-usapan itong, we talked about the China Sea. And suddenly I blurted that, Mr. President, we are claimants to that island. And we have this arbiter award. Though I am not insisting on its solution now, I'd like you to know that I am going to China Sea to claim part of our territory, and I will dig oil. I was that forward. Talagang sinabi ko harap-harapan in a bilateral. Nandiyan kami lahat. And you know what? Si Xi Jinping, the ever cool guy, started by just, sabi niya, well, we just restored our relationships. I think it's a new era for us, a new day. And if I may beg you not to bring this up forcefully, because there will be a time that we will be discussing it. And sabi ko, right, Mr. President, at least during my term, I will raise the issue again. Pero nagpipilit ako, sabi ko, whatever is in the bowels of the earth is ours over there, because that is our territory. We are not giving up our rights. As a matter of fact, we are still insisting until now, to the point that they are now willing, yan ang sabi nga ni Xi Jinping, we would always find a solution to any problem. They are now offering for a joint exploration and development. Sabi niya, maybe you'll have a bigger share. Tingnan natin. Ang tao noon, basta ganon ang paano mo, you remain meek and humble. Yung ego niya mag-start to, then it turns to something basic like, maawa rin. Sabi niya, sige, so we are now negotiating. Kaysa magkagera ako, sabi ko, maubos ang sundalo ko. Pag lunch pa lang ng ilang atin ito, ganito kalaki. Matamaan ito ng cruise missile, wala na. Patay ang sundalo ko.
In Myanmar, mahouts and their elephants help seek young and elderly villagers displaced by conflict cross a chest-deep river in Myanmar's remote Kachin state, where thousands of people recently completed a trek through a dense jungle to safety. The people of Aung Lat in Kachin state were forced from their homes by escalating fighting between rebels from the Kachin Independence Army and Myanmar's military earlier this year. In it is a grinding conflict that plays out away from the more prominent global headlines generated by violence in the country's west, where the army has driven out some 700,000 Rohingya Muslims since August to fierce international condemnation. For 3 days, the villagers took shelter in their paddy fields as the sound of gunfire and fighter jets came ever closer. But as shells started to fall among their homes, village leaders ordered an evacuation to IDP camps dozens of kilometers away. The slowest and most vulnerable could only manage to hack through the jungle undergrowth for 3 or 4 hours a day. On May 2, after nearly a month and with food running out, they reached the river where some local elephant owners came to their aid. Remarkable footage shows Kachin villagers in bright traditional headdresses hoisting youngsters onto the backs of several of the giant creatures to cross the waterway. One villager said, quote, "We had some elderly, sick, and blind people, so we asked the mahouts for help to carry those people." Working elephants are widely used in the rough terrain of Kachin state, including by rebel groups fighting Myanmar's army, which is equipped with helicopters and fighter jets. Most of the villagers are now in camps, but as the fighting rages, they do not know how long it will be before they can return home. Myanmar has been mired in almost continuous conflict with ethnic insurgent groups for more than 70 years. More than 100,000 people have been displaced by the violence in and around Kachin state, according to the latest UN figures.
Whoever they are and wherever they may be, they all have the same message. Mata ng Agila, Mondays through Fridays, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Only here at Net 25.
Welcome back. The Department of Finance and Japan International Cooperation Agency, or JICA, on Tuesday signed a grant agreement that would pave the way for the release of 2 billion yen, or some 18.66 million US dollars, in funds for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of war-torn Marawi City and surrounding communities. The agreement, roughly equivalent to 970 million pesos, was signed by Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III and JICA Chief Representative to the Philippines, Yoshio Wada. At the signing ceremony, Dominguez acknowledged that this will be the 4th grant extended by the government of Japan, specifically to support efforts to rebuild Marawi City. The first grant was the 2 million US dollars humanitarian assistance through United Nations Children's Fund and World Food Program in July 2017. During the ASEAN summit here in November 2017, the Japanese government also donated construction equipment for the clearing operations in Marawi, such as excavators, bulldozers, and trucks. Last March, the governments of the Philippines and Japan signed the exchange of notes worth 9.8 million US dollars for shelter and livelihood assistance package. Total assistance of the Japanese government to the Philippines to support initiatives in Marawi is now at 36 million US dollars. Meanwhile, the Cambodian Mine Action and Victim Assistance Authority said Cambodia will be mine-free by 2025, noting that the country has made significant progress in reducing mine-related casualties over the past 25 years. Lai Tuk, a senior minister and first vice president of CMAA, yesterday said that the organization is confident unexploded ordnances that have haunted the nation since the Vietnam War will be cleared by 2025. Mr. Tuk added that the monumental task is painstaking, technical, expensive, and inevitably hazardous, while noting that there is commitment to seeing it done. The National Mine Action Conference, which begins today, will focus on developing new ideas and new means to enhance the mobilization of resources and personnel. As of December, 1,700 square kilometers of land were demined, while 1.25 million mines and 2.7 million explosives were destroyed. However, an estimated total of 2,000 square kilometers of mine-contaminated land remains to be cleared. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Nea Mangawang, always one with 25.